great workshop, and I'll see you back at the end when we get to the question and answer period.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jackie. And thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. Jackie, can you just confirm for me the view looks right here? You're getting the full slideshow.
Yeah, you're perfect.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is going to be a really, I think it's a really helpful workshop for vendor community, and look forward to you all joining us today and hearing about some of the programs and incentives that we offer here at the city and at DBS. So we'll start with kind of a high level overview of our programs that we offer here, and we'll get into some specifics about the bid incentives that we offer as well. So regarding the programs, these are at a high level ways that we tailor certain contracting opportunities to targeted communities or kind of a smaller community than everyone, than the entire vendor. The way that we do this, we use what's called the Small Business Initiative Program, Mid-Sized Business Initiative Program, and Target Market Program, and various other programs that, for policy reasons, are geared towards small businesses specifically. And we'll talk about what that means, but it does create certain opportunities for smaller businesses that we're not offering to the larger businesses. So this is a way that we can kind of help grow our local small business. The first one, as I mentioned, is the Small Business Initiative. So specifically for construction, the goal of this program is to encourage small businesses to participate in city-funded construction projects under $3 million in costs. And so small local businesses are the exclusive bidders. The principal place of business and majority of the full-time workforce must be located in the 6-county region. So that's Cook County and then the 5 other surrounding counties that connect to Cook. Businesses have to be located there, and they also have to be certain size businesses. So we have these 2 tiers of the program. Small Business 1, so that is the smaller projects there. The bidders must be within certain SBA size standards and have owners with certain limits to their personal net worth. SBI 2 is then a kind of different tier in terms of the spend on the construction program, and those similar, it'll be half the SBA size standards and half the personal net worth. Small businesses must then perform the majority of the work with their own workforce or subcontract to other qualifying small businesses. Expanding on that, we also offer a mid-sized business initiative for construction, and this is a different sort of tier. So the businesses that participate can be larger than in the Small Business Initiative, and the spend on the project itself by the city can be larger as well. You'll see here. So these small and mid-sized businesses are the only ones that can bid on these projects. Similarly, we're trying to target local businesses, so we do have that 6-county region limitation, and then the spend is slightly higher because we're moving into this other tier. So there's the MBI 1, MBI 2, and similarly, we do have this self-performance requirement, and so we're gearing this to only have mid-sized local businesses perform on the project, or at least do the majority of it. We do then also offer a non-construction MBI program. This is designed to increase small and sized participation in city-funded non-construction projects. So similar sort of limitations there. The spend here being $3 and $10 million. And similar self-performance requirements. Next, we'll touch on the diversity credit program. So this is a program designed to increase the participation of MBEs and WBEs in private contracts. So we make that participation eligible for credits towards their prime contractors MWBE goals on city contracts. So this is the key points here are that the MW performs direct commercially useful function. The MW work is done in an area of specialty that is certified by the city. And then a dollar of credit is earned for every $3 earned by that MW vendor. So the maximum amount of the credit here for the city contract is 5%, and the credits may only be used once and expire after a year. Next, we have the Mentor Protege program. This is a program designed to incentivize larger businesses, particularly prime contractors, to mentor and help grow smaller businesses working in the same or similar fields. The way that we do that is that we offer a extra participation credit for the utilization of that protege firm. So it's a percentage participation credit earned for every 1% performed by the protege, up to 5%. This program requires the written mentor protege agreement to be approved by the CPO. That agreement must be designed to assist the protege in becoming self-sustaining, competitive, and profitable. And generally, this is included with a bid proposal, and it is approved as a matter of course if it checks those boxes, and it requires certain amount of meetings between the mentor and the protege, and certain reporting to the city, and so either the prime mentors the MWBE firm directly, or the subcontractors mentor another MWBE firm during the term of a contract, and there's also a 1% bid incentive associated with that. Next, we have our target market program. This is a program specifically for non-construction contracts, and there's a long kind of historical reasoning for that, why it's geared towards only non-construction projects, but this is a way that the city can provide opportunities directly to certified firms, so MBEs and WBEs, and only certified firms are eligible to bid on that contract. It can be, in addition to M and WBEs, it can also be joint ventures between MBEs, WBEs, or both. And then every bidder must be certified by the city in one of those two categories, or the joint venture, which is kind of a combination of multiple certified firms. The prime contractor can then subcontract up to 50% of the dollar value of the contract, but we want the MBE, WBE bidding on it to do the majority of the work. Next program that we have here is the MBE, WBE phase graduation program. So the policy goal of this program is to maximize the diversity in the city's contracting. And because these programs have certain caps on the size of the business or the owner's personal net worth, the phase graduation program makes it so that they're not immediately ineligible to count towards credit if they're used as a subcontractor or used to gain credit in some other fashion. Instead, once the city becomes aware that a firm has exceeded those size caps, whether it's the gross receipts, employee size caps for certification, or the owner's personal net worth caps, instead of making them immediately ineligible, the firm will be considered a participating established business for a period of 3 years. And so in that first year, their utilization by prime contractor will get 75% credit for that firm's participation in the city contract during that first year. So for every dollar that they spend on the certified firm who is, working towards graduation, they'll get 75-cent credit in terms of the prime's utilization goals. That drops to 50% during the second year, 25% during the third year, if there's a new contract starting at that point. So this is a way to ensure that firms, as they kind of grow out of the program, can continue to be utilized, and that we incentivize prime contractors to continue utilizing these certified firms, even as they're kind of growing out of the program. It helps them build capacity and hopefully continue moving in that direction and utilizing other firms that we hope grow large enough to graduate also. So next we'll get into bid incentives. So we do have a handful here that are geared towards only construction contracts, also a non-construction contract based one, and then we have a set that are you'll see applied to both types, both construction and non-construction. But we'll get into some of the factors here. So first, we do have the apprentice utilization bid incentive. So the goal for this one is to incentivize city prime contractors to utilize apprentices on construction contracts with an estimated value of $100,000 to be considered an apprentice and count towards this bid incentive. An apprentice must be sponsored by an apprenticeship training program by a contractor authorized by a union to sponsor apprentices. And they also must be enrolled in or graduated from construction technology training program administered by City Colleges of Chicago or a graduate of a Chicago public high school. It's an earned credit incentive. So the utilization of the apprentices on one contract can create a credit for the prime contractor to use on their bid for another contract for a period of 3 years. Whichever that next contract that the prime contractor is awarded by the city next after utilizing the apprentice on the previous contract, that will be the contract where this incentive is applied. It is a tiered incentive as well. So if 5 to 10% of the work is performed by an apprentice, then that next contract will, the prime will have available to them a 0.5% bid incentive. If the apprentice or is a project area subcontractor, it's 11 to 15%, results in a 1% bid incentive. And all of these have the municipal code citation there at the bottom if you're interested in looking at the exact kind of verbiage that we have in the municipal code of Chicago. The next incentive that we'll talk about is the Equal Employment Opportunity Incentive. This is designed to increase the utilization of minority and women journey workers, apprentices, and laborers on construction projects with an estimated value of $100,000. So the way that the bidder will utilize this bid incentive is to set out, there are worksheets involved in the bid submissions that kind of lay all this out. But the bidder will use a canvassing formula and propose certain amount of work hours that they will designate specifically to minority and women workers as a percentage of the work hours for the project as a whole. So the commitment cap for female workers is 15%, for minority workers it's 70%. And then the bidder gets 150% credit for each of the work hours performed by either one of those categories, if they also reside in a socioeconomically disadvantaged area. So laying all that out at the front end, there's some calculations that go into this and based on the canvassing formula. And then that final calculation, after all of that is processed, creates what's called an award criteria figure, and then that reduces, it's kind of used to adjust the base bid that the prime bidder submits to the city and reduce it accordingly based on the commitments that they make in these in the bid submission. This next one, we have it labeled here, ex-offender apprentice bid incentive. I believe this is also, this deck might just be a little outdated. I believe it's been renamed the returning resident bid incentive. But the goal here is, it's an incentive for prime contractors to sponsor and utilize returning residents on construction projects with an estimated value of $100,000. So this is a way to help folks get back into the workforce after being justice involved. And another city department will work with different delegate agencies that work in this space to recruit, screen, and refer potentially qualified candidates. They go through an intake process where their eligibility is determined and evaluated and recorded for purposes of reporting to the city. And the prime contractor, by hiring these folks and having them work on the project, gets an earned credit incentive for future contracts. So similar to the previous one, it's not an incentive on the specific project that you're bidding on, but by utilizing these individuals in your workforce, the prime gets a credit that they can then use sometime over the next 3 years to win a second contract after the fact. So this is also tiered according to the labor hours performed by the qualifying apprentices. So if that's 5 to 10% labor hours, that's a 0.5% incentive on the future contract. If it's 11 to 15%, it's a 1%. We also have the project area subcontractor bid incentive. So this is also a way that we try to incentivize hyper-local hiring. So we encourage prime contractors to utilize subcontractors from within the project area around a construction project. And that's usually, and the territory of that project area is usually designated in bid documents. But if a subcontractor is both a small business and conducts meaningful day-to-day business within the project area, and has that as the primary place of employment for majority of their workforce, is also licensed, subject to city taxes, then the amount of work that is the prime gives to that project area subcontractor will yield them a bid incentive. And that this is also tiered. So you'll see here 1 to 16% project area subcontractor work gets you a 0.5% bid incentive. 17 to 32% yields a 1% bid incentive. 33 to 49 gives you a 1.5%, and 50% or more yields a 2% bid incentive. So there is a similar requirement already in place, as you'll see by this note at the bottom, section 292-330. It's often referred to as the Chicago Residency Ordinance. So a subset of that already does require contractors to at least make good faith efforts to have at least 7.5% of their work hours performed by project area residents. Within that, or outside of that 7.5%, has to be 50% city residents. So this is already something that most prime contractors are geared to implement on their projects and kind of how they're hiring and subcontracting work out. But this is a separate additional incentive outside of that requirement from the Chicago Residency Ordinance that also provides them with a bid incentive. We also have the veteran-owned subcontractor utilization bid incentive. This is an incentive that applies to contracts for construction projects. It's designed to encourage the utilization of veteran-owned subcontractors in the performance of the contract. We require that the bidder be a veteran-owned small local business or utilize these as subcontractors. VBEs certification that we haven't touched on much today. We've been focusing largely on minority and women-owned business enterprises, but the city also does certify businesses as veteran-owned, and that also will be in play for incentives such as this, in incentivizing prime contractors to utilize small local veteran businesses. This incentive is also tiered based on the bidder's commitment to the use of veteran-owned subcontractors. So if the commitment is to utilize that sub for 1 to 16%, the prime receives a 0.5% bid incentive. 17 to 32 yields a 1% bid incentive. 33 to 49 is 1.5%, and 50% or greater within the project yields a 2%. We also, as another method to try to keep Chicago's tax dollars in Chicago, we do incentivize local businesses to be utilized on contracts or to bid directly on contracts. So as a result of that, in the municipal code, the city council created a city-based manufacturers bid incentive. So this will primarily be relevant on commodities type projects, or at least contracts where commodities play a large role in fulfilling the city's need for goods or services. And the goal here is to increase contracting supply opportunities by city-based manufacturers. So the manufacturer has to be licensed, taxed, and operating in the city. And then this bid incentive is available if the contract is for $100,000 or more, and it's tiered. If the goods provided from a city-based manufacturer, 25 to 40% of the goods provided, that's a 1% bid incentive. 50 to 74% is a 1.5% bid incentive, and 75% or more is a 2% bid incentive. Next, we have the alternatively powered vehicles bid incentive. This is designed to be an incentive for city vendors to use alternatively powered vehicles in their business fleet. It's a way to encourage alternative fuel sources in vehicles, with the understanding that, a lot of our contractors are, in order to perform on these contracts, are required to move around a lot, and this is a way that we can incentivize transportation methods that are less moving than others. So to be an eligible business, you also have to be located in the 6-county region. Also have to have at least 10 vehicles in your business's fleet, and the majority of that fleet must be located and used in the 6-county region as well. And then the majority of those vehicles must also be alternatively powered, which means that they could run on any alternative fuel. It's designated in the ordinance, but it generally will include natural gas, liquefied petroleum gas, hydrogen, ethanol E5, electrical vehicles. This will yield a 0.5% bid incentive, and it applies to contracts for $100,000 and more in city spending. We also offer bid incentives for the utilization of business enterprises owned or operated by people with disabilities. Kind of shorthand for this, we've been talking about MW and VBEs. This will refer to this as BEPD. It's a way to increase contracting opportunities and participation by those BEPD businesses. And we do that by creating a tiered incentive for anyone certified as a BEPD. They can be prime or subcontractor, but they must be certified. And the tiered incentive is based on their percent participation. If it's between 2.5 or 2 to 5% of the contract, there'll be a 1% incentive. 6 to 9% participation results in a 2% incentive. 10 to 13% results in a 3% incentive. 14% or more results in a 4% incentive. The next, we've touched on the city-based manufacturer bid incentive. We also, as a city, offer a city-based business bid incentive. So this is less focus on the manufacturing side, but specifically around a program designed to increase contracting opportunities and participation by any business within the city. So this will be available for any contract that's estimated to cost more than $100,000. And it is also a tiered incentive, like several of the previous ones that we've identified here today. But the tiers here, as you'll see, have to do with the kind of composition of the workforce at that city-based business. So it is a 4% bid incentive if it's a city-based business, which means that we conduct meaningful day-to-day business from a facility in the city. You do a majority of your regular full-time employees work out of that city facility, hold all city licenses, and subject to all applicable city taxes. That 4% jumps to 6% if, on top of being city-based, your business also has a majority of its regular full-time workforce as city residents also. So that means the business is located here and a majority of the workforce is. That 6% then goes up even further to 8% if a majority of the city resident workforce lives in what's been deemed a socioeconomically disadvantaged area. So this is a way for us to incentivize city businesses to hire folks from disadvantaged communities, and kind of way we have designated the socioeconomically disadvantaged areas is as you see here on the map. The red areas are considered socioeconomically disadvantaged areas as determined by the city's Department of Planning and Development. This is a map that can change. I believe that's being contemplated at the moment, actually, but you'll see from this kind of the general areas that are have that designation by the city at the moment. We also offer an incentive to further encourage MBE and WBE participation. So if we have a contract where no specific MW goals are assigned to the prime contractor, there is still a bid incentive for a prime contractor to utilize certified firms. So sometimes a contract will not have designated participation goals because of the analysis of the number of certified firms available to do the type of work that's required on that project. So if that's the case, the bid incentive will be available instead of the goals, which prime contractors are required to at least attempt to hit. Instead of having a goal, the prime would be eligible to take advantage of this incentive, which requires them to submit a compliance plan along with their bid. And on that compliance plan, they'll designate a certain level of MBE, WBE participation, either by their own firm if they're certified or subcontractor. It can also be direct or indirect participation. So we can kind of see how we can bring different levels of involvement in on a contract that doesn't specifically have goals assigned to it. The actual value of the incentive is here to here as well. So it's either MBE or WBE participation is at 5%. We're at 0.75% incentive. 10% gives you a full percent incentive. 15% gives you a 1.25% incentive. 20% participation yields a 1.5% incentive. 25% participation yields a 1.75% incentive, and 30% participation yields a 2% incentive. We also have veteran-owned and small business joint venture bid incentive. This is a way that the city has attempted to increase contracting opportunities and participation by small local veteran-owned business enterprises, the VBEs that we were talking about earlier, as well as participation by eligible joint ventures. So that's when one or more small local businesses combined with one or more veteran-owned businesses and going on a specific project together in a separate joint venture entity. So a VBE qualify by itself without the joint venture if they perform 51% or more and are certified by the city as a VBE. If it's a joint venture, all members must be either a small local business, veteran-owned business, or both. At least one must be veteran, though. And then all of the small local businesses involved must collectively have at least 30% interest in the JV. Veteran-owned businesses must collectively have at least 30% in the JV. JV partners must self-perform at least 20% of the work, and none of them can act as brokers. This is as you'll see, threshold for this is also contracts worth over $100,000, similar to several others that we've discussed today. And this yields a 5%. We also, as a city, offer a diverse workforce and management bid incentive. These are tiered incentives that can be combined. That are designed to encourage contractors to employ a diverse workforce within their business, but also to have diverse management. And this once again applies to contracts with an estimated value of $100,000 or more. So we have two sets of tiered incentives that you can combine together. Diverse workforce will depend on the percentage of the workforce that is considered diverse, and 10 to 20% will yield a 2% bid incentive. 20 to 40% will yield a 4% bid incentive, and over 40% will yield a 6% bid incentive. For diverse management, similarly, 10 to 20, and 20 to 40, and over 40 are the tiers, but the bid incentive is worth slightly less. It's either a 0.5%, 2%, or 4%, depending on that percentage. So we'll also talk just quickly about how incentives work. Applicable incentives will be listed in a bid package. So if you're thinking about whether or not one applies, that will be identified within applicable incentives will be listed in the bid package. So that'll be laid out for you. You won't have to guess about whether or not the particular one actually it is eligible to be used in a certain bid. Bidders are required to submit an affidavit and all requested documentation in order to be considered for the incentive. The incentive will not be applied if you miss any of that requested documentation. So keep a close eye on what is required to be submitted alongside that affidavit, and make sure to include all the requested documentation. If you are eligible, your base bid figure will be reduced in the amount of the incentive for evaluation purposes only. That's the key here. So utilizing these incentives does not adjust what you would actually be paid by the city. It just means that we adjust what your base bid figure is by the incentive amount for when we're comparing it against other companies' bids. So in terms of identifying the lowest bidder, yours will be shown as lower, but you will not be paid less money by the city if you are awarded the contract. Some incentives cannot be combined. This is again something that will be laid out in the bid documents. So you'll see here city-based bid incentive. The various tiers of them cannot stack. So you cannot get 4% by being a city-based business, but also the 6% on top by having a certain aspect of your work or certain percentage of your workforce be city residents. You don't yield 10%, you just go up a tier. And then similarly, you don't combine a city-based business with a city-based manufacturer. These are ways, we have multiple ways of trying to incentivize the same or similar practices or hiring activity or subcontracting activity. But so we don't necessarily allow them to be. It's probably the easiest way of talking about this. Similarly, a project area subcontractor utilization cannot be used with city-based manufacturer utilization incentive. The veteran-owned SBE, veteran JV1 can't be used with purely the veteran-owned subcontractor utilization and vice versa. So we're trying to encourage these behaviors, but also at the same time don't want to create such a drastic incentive that we're stacking these things in. Okay, and then the requirements after award. If you do utilize a bid incentive, you may be required to submit documentation at your contract closeout or throughout your contract performance, which demonstrates that you are meeting your commitments. So this is a way of ensuring that people are not just claiming these incentives for purposes of gaining a contract. Instead, they actually must follow through on their commitments in terms of hiring, subcontracting, and other obligations. If you do fail to meet commitments, that can be yield a fine, sometimes up to 3 times the amount of the incentive that you were granted, or the denial of earned credit certificate for those that apply more to future contracts. You can also, if we are determining that you failed to meet your commitments and you bid on a project after that with the city, we can find you as non-responsible, which means that we can throw out your bid if we believe that you were acting in bad faith in the previous contract. Any questions?
Do you all have any questions for Patrick? And Patrick, you do have a few here. I'm going to get to that in just a second. For those of you that may want to know how to get to the question area, far right-hand corner, bottom of your screen, 3 dots, click on those 3 dots, Q&A comes up, and then you're able to put in your question. The first question basically says, I'm not understanding credits. What are they? How do they benefit small businesses applying for these incentives? Who receives the credit? How are the credits used by the recipient?
Okay, thank you. That's a great question. So the main distinction is, I would say, which bid the adjustment occurs. So some of the bid incentives, let's say the city-based business one, you are claiming that at the time that you are bidding on a particular contract and your bid number will be adjusted accordingly for purposes of that specific contract award. If it's more of the earned credit incentive, then it's more about identifying and following through on certain hiring practices or some other claimed incentive, but not to get that contract in the first place, but to instead bank a credit that you can use on your next contract bid. So the distinction is, I guess, where the incentive is applied. Some of them are for the contract that you're bidding on right now. Some of them are requiring you to follow through on some of your commitments during one contract so that you can earn and use an incentive the next time you try to bid a city.
So that sort of feeds into the second question, and let me just say that he gave a great analogy of the incentives and then the types of credits. But let me just say the next question, it says, can we go over incentives versus credits? And I would just say, Patrick, if we could kind of give an example of a situation where incentives can be used as a benefit to, let's say, a prime. or it also can be an incentive for a sub contractor. I'm not getting business as a subcontractor, want to go work with the prime, and I can say, have you heard of the city of Chicago's bid incentives? It is this. I qualify for that. And therefore, we can have a win-win here. I can work with you and get some experience so I can see how it is working on government contracts. And the prime then would say, sure, because I can get a credit for you working for me in doing this work. So it can work out for everyone because at the end of the game, the city of Chicago gets its whatever we're creating done because the prime and the sub both work together to get us that or to complete that project. So you can answer that any way you want, Patrick, of what is the difference of an incentive versus credits.
Thank you, Jackie. That's a great way of framing it. I would say a good example is probably, let's say your business, you have a small business that's certified as, say, veteran owned, and you want to get some work for your business. So you approach a prime who is bidding on a city contract, and that prime, if they hire you, they have a better chance of getting that contract that they are already seeking out, because by listing you as part of their compliance plan, they're eligible for a bid incentive on that particular project. A credit could instead be, instead of the instead of being a veteran-owned subcontractor, let's say that you're an apprentice trying to find work as you're just getting started in, say plumbing or something like that. If they were to give you enough work hours on the project that they're already working on or bidding on, they're already bidding on a project and they say that they'll give so many hours to an apprentice who's just starting out and helping you, get settled in this field. They can give you work on this project and it makes them more likely to get another city contract down the road. And it also helps you kind of get settled in the industry in that field. So that would be the credit if it's helping them on the next contract, and it's an incentive if it's helping them on this contract. It's just
And
about
I'm sorry.
no,
I'm sorry.
it's just the timing of when it helps the prime get the.
And our last question is the employment option. I guess that's option or opportunity. Incentive. Is that only for construction bidders?
It is. So that is one of our construction only programs. And it's defined by, like I was kind of different categories of construction workers, whether they're apprentices or journey workers or things like that. Hiring them and setting out a formula for how you're going to be hiring people that are women or minority apprentices or journey workers. You set that out at the front end and then you hire them for your construction project. And that will also help you get the contract with the city because it'll give you a bid incentive by you, committing to certain hirings from this. So yes, only for construction.
All righty. So I guess that's it. I'm gonna give a few extra seconds as I thank Patrick for imparting that great information off to our audience. I want to thank also the participants for coming on. We know that you have a busy schedule and other things that you could be doing, but you're trying to find out how you can work in this government space with the city of Chicago. And we welcome you to do that. So we thank you for being on to hear how you can do that with us. And I say to you, I'm going to give Patrick an opportunity to say his last parting words to you as well. But my last parting words to you is if you want more information about those incentives, you can go to, and I'll put it right in the Q&A. You can go to www.chicago.gov, and you would actually type in DPS guides, I think it is. And that will give you the opportunity to get the DPS buying guides. The DPS resource guides, I'm sorry. And if you go into the second volume, which is the light blue cover, it has each one of these incentives in depth with an explanation of what the incentive is and the credits you get, so on and so forth. So I would say peruse that and get a full understanding of that, because it could be your best, I don't want to say weapon, but your best resource or tool that you can use when you are searching to work for or work with other government agencies, I should say city departments, or you're trying to work for contractors that have the contracts for those city departments. That is your best weapon to use with them, or your best resource to use with them to get in on a job that perhaps you didn't bid for, or you are not sure if you are ready to go full out and bid for something, and you want to just work on something with someone to see how it goes. So that is a way to get your feet wet. So I will turn it over to Patrick, and Patrick, you can for sure say your last parting words of any tips, tools, anything you would suggest that they do at this point, and then we will end the session because we have no more questions.
I just want to thank everyone for tuning in today and for your interest in doing business with the city. We always want to encourage new vendors to take advantage of the various contracting opportunities that we offer. And so I think you tuning in is a great start to us expanding our vendor pool, and we appreciate your time and attention. Thank you to Jackie also for all the work you do.
Patrick. So you all have a wonderful rest of your day. We hope to see you again. We have 2 more workshops next Wednesday and Thursday at 2:00, same station, same time, same station. So we hope to see you then. And we will have our make classes out in Monday's DPS Alert. So sign up for those. If you have not signed up for the DPS Alerts, I suggest that you do so. Something real special that's coming out in June, July. We're going to have some specific groups talking to our audiences, city departments, and some of our assist agencies talking to our departments. We're going to give our physical DPS staff a little break and take a few months and have some of these other groups talk with you and tell you how you can sign up for their contracts as well. So look forward to seeing that in the DPS alerts coming soon. I am coordinating with those departments now to get them on the books. So they will be talking about giving you a brief overview about their city department and how they procure and a bid for, have bids for specific things that they need within that department. So stay tuned for that as well. At the end of this session, we have a post survey. Feel free to use the comments area to tell me any workshops or any topics or any titles that you would like us to begin to discuss, that you have not seen us discuss those things, because I look at that to decide what workshops to put on for the upcoming year. And I also look at that to create workshops when we have our events, the construction summit and our procurement symposium. So look out for all of that great stuff. Feel free to fill out the post survey and give me your thoughts. I look forward to reading those because I know that then you're engaged and I'm giving you what you're looking for. So we hope to see you all at another one of these workshops. Have a wonderful rest of your day and take care. Bye, Patrick. Thank you.